welcome back to the BSU Woodwinds channel. Today we are joined by Professor Weisbrod and Professor Guidry, and we are going to talk to you about better ways to practice. So let's go ahead and get started. Professor Weisbrod, I'm going to start with you. Do you have any tips for us on how you warm up?
I do, yes. So before I even actually put my instrument together, I like to do some stretching. So check out the last video, wherever it is, and just to get my body moving a little bit, especially in the pandemic, we are all sitting way too still. So it's nice to just get a little loose before I pick up my instrument. And then I like to get into the right headspace as well. So making sure that I'm really thinking about what I'm about to do, that I'm not stressed about, any emails I need to send or whatever I need to do in the evening, but that I'm really present in what I'm about to do as a musician. And then as I warm up, so I'm mentally prepared, I'm physically prepared, and then I start my warm up, which primarily consists of long tones. And I do them anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour. It sort of depends on the day. If things are going well, then we move right along to scales. And if they're not, then I just really spend a lot of time sort of getting in that right space, getting the right sound that I want. So I feel comfortable moving on to my technique, my scales, articulation, and then eventually repertoire. So that's kind of my warm up in a nutshell.
Awesome, thank you. Professor Guidry, anything to add with your warm up?
I do many of the same things as Professor Weisbrod. I like to make sure mine is pretty consistent, though. I do the same thing every day when I'm warming up. Um, and I like to start at the low end of my instrument and work up to the higher notes, just to kind of warm up the embouchure and get my fingers moving. And the same, I do lots of long tones as well, um, and then move on to the other exercises and repertoire.
Awesome. Sounds like we all like our long tones and making sure that we are completely warmed up physically and mentally, it sounds like. So those are great tips. Our next topic here is bad tone days. So I don't know about you all, but some days my tone is just not at its best. So for those players out there who are experiencing similar things, what do you think we can do? So Professor Guidry, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Okay. Yes, bad tone days with being an oboe player in the reed situation. I don't always have a great reed, and that greatly affects my tone. So I sometimes I'll just put it away, and other times I'll just go through it and just kind of working to relax and trying to figure out why um, I'm not sounding how I want to sound, or what can I do to try and help my tone. And it just I think you have to try to not get frustrated with yourself, and you just work on long tones. I think long tones are a really great way to see what your embouchure is doing and maybe why you're having a rough day.
Great. Professor Weisbrod, anything to add to that?
Yes, well, I think Professor Guidry highlighted some really great things, and I love that she said about just sticking with your long tones. It's so easy to just sort of say, well, I did my 15 mandatory minutes of long tones, so now it's time to move on to scales. But if I'm having a bad tone day, I might only do long tones in the low register, middle register. I don't want to force anything until my body feels ready. And it might also take a break. It could be, a quick 15-minute break, or it could be a couple hours. And then coming back to it with a different mindset, a little bit of a reset. The other thing I like to do on bad tone days is listen to my favorite flute players. I think there's something so aurally inspiring about listen to people who inspire us. So I'll listen to my teachers or my teachers' teachers, or might listen to a favorite piece. I mean, sometimes we just need a little extra stimulation to get us where we need to be. But I would say, don't give up. And going off of what Professor Guidry said about, focusing on things you can fix, ask yourself questions about what you're hearing. Each instrument has its own nuances for the embouchure. So ask yourself what adjustments you can make to maybe get that tone more focused, more in tune, and more sounding like how you would want it to sound.
Great. I know sometimes we just have to tough it out if we have a rehearsal or something like that. And those days I try to just, make sure my throat is open, my jaw is relaxed, and I'm doing anything I really can, find the best read I can, if it's one of those days. But just not getting so frustrated that it completely ruins your day is another thing I try to do as well. Um, on that note, maybe on a bad tone day, if you don't have a rehearsal or something to attend or a concert, um, maybe it's a good day to mental practice, to just sit down the horn for a while and see what we can do in here. Professor Weisbrod, do you have any tips on how you mentally practice?
Yes, well, there are a couple ways that we can mentally practice. There's sort of the score study mentally practice. So I will sit with my score and, look at the parts. I might play the air flute or have a pencil in my hand, or I might have my actual flute in my hands as well. I think that that is really helpful. Um, and another way to mental practice is, listening, going back to listening and being inspired. You can listen to repertoire that you're working on. That can be a great way to help you, especially with maybe a troublesome passage, or you're not sure how you want to interpret something. Sometimes just hearing and listening to a variety of performances can help inform how you want to play.
Great. Professor Guidry, what is your favorite way to mentally practice?
I really like to take my part and listen to, if it's maybe some oboe music, listen to my favorite player playing that music and just taking notes like, okay, this right here, oh, they made a crescendo. Well, oh, I really like that, but it's not on my paper. So I make notes like that. I also, like, if I have an orchestra job or something, I always look at my part and listen to the piece and make sure I know where are my most important parts, like solos and all that. So I do a lot of listening. I think for me, that's really where I go with it.
Great. I know for me, if I have a technical passage that I just cannot get, it's not connecting here and here. There's some kind of disconnect happening. I like to just say the notes in that measure out loud without the instrument in my hands at all. Say it out loud. Think about what the fingerings are, and sometimes that helps to repair it a little bit. I just want to ask if you guys have any last minute tips or tricks up your sleeve for your practice sessions to share with any of our viewers. So Professor Guidry, I'll start with you.
Um, Practice those things that you can't play. You know, if you have a really easy section and then you have a really hard section, don't waste your time so much on the easy section and just really kind of tackle that technical part. Use different rhythms, like with a string of 16th notes, you can use different rhythms, like da 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 da, or da 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 da, or group them differently. Do something so that it just needs to get into your fingers and you don't have to think about what is going on. And it really, I think it shows when you use different rhythms, shows you where your problem is, because you're going to mess up there. So I really like doing that type of thing.
Great. Professor Weisbrod, any last minute tips or tricks for us?
Yes, I would just like to say, remember why you're a musician, why you picked your instrument, and use that for inspiration. On those days where you're feeling frustrated, maybe your fingers aren't working right, tone isn't what you want, remember the process of what you need to do instead of saying, I need to, by today, I need to have this passage done. Some days that just won't happen. So remember to focus on the small, minute actions that we need to do to get a passage out. Coordination is, or excuse me, technique is coordination. And so it's important to remember that we have to practice how the pieces of the musical puzzle fit together.
Awesome. That's great advice. And then my last minute tip or trick for you would be, if you're sitting there practicing and you're like, well, I don't know, I think I got that right, but you're not sure, pull out your phone and record yourself. Listen back, see if you can tell where you might be having a little bit of trouble, or, oh, I want to do more of a crescendo here, and just see what you hear. Sometimes that's a very eye-opening experience to record yourself. But thank you all so much for joining us today. We hope you got something out of this. If you think of any questions that you have for us, feel free to leave it in the comments down below, and we'll try to answer it in a future video. But we hope to see you next time. Bye.